Welcome to the second part of our tour of the Colne Valley Postal History Museum here in Essex. We've pretty much covered the lower garden with its K8 telephone kiosk and shed 2. Just wanted to talk a little bit about this end of the shed though. Obviously a whole forest of signs at this end, and as you can see, a very strong French flavour there with the Illuminated La Poste sign from the front of a French post office, and then 3 beautiful enamel signs which were made in Strasbourg. Agence Postal, a postal agency, would have just been set up in the village, maybe one day a week or one morning a week, so that you could post your stuff. Post Recette Auxiliaire, an auxiliary rural post office, very similar but probably open a little bit more frequently. And then Post Rural Correspondant, where you could leave post in a rural area and have it collected. And then below those, 2 of the classic Chromo of Wolverhampton post office name signs from the UK, Honing and Greenstead. And then on this end of the shed, we've got the Illuminated Coles Hill Road post office. I actually used to live in the village of Coles Hill in Warwickshire. That is from the Fox and Goose shopping centre in Castle Bromwich in Birmingham. Below it is the Halstead sign from the old Crown office. When that closed, we were able to acquire those. And then down the end of that shed, you can see 2 of the smaller lozenges, and 2 at the end, which are again Welsh, Swydfarpost. The Welsh ones are double-sided, by the way. You get the English translation on the other side. And then bolted to the gate wall here is a German box that came from a British Army on the Rhine camp. That's a 1960s German post box. So if we come up into the upper garden, across the gate here, there's some larger objects. First one here is a Mech Garage Box, and that big white panel on the front there would have been used for displaying advertisements, which the post office hoped would make them some money. It only ever, as far as I know, carried a Royal Mail advertisement for next day delivery. I never saw commercial advertisements on these, and most of the survivors have had that door, which is separate, removed. So you'll see the basic box, but without the door. Next to it, the classic supermarket box, made in fiberglass by Broadwater Mouldings. Not much more to say about that, apart from the fact it's got the rare closed plate on it, which is designed to fit these boxes. And then just here, standard Karen and Company George V B-size pillar box. Now, if we swing around the other side of the gate, we've got perhaps the most modern thing to have entered the collection, which is the Romex Serious Engineering lamp box. Sheet steel, powder coated, with a laser cut cipher which can be exchanged for the Scottish one. These are appearing all over the country now, and that one arrived here 2 years ago. Rather nice bit of street furniture there, like the Slow Major Road Ahead sign from the 50s. And then under restoration, if you've been looking at my personal Facebook page, you'll know I'm waiting for the top of this. This beauty is going to be our first national standard pillar. It was made in 1863 by Cochrane Grove & Co in Dudley, and the cap has gone off to have the hood replaced, which was cut off in the 60s. And then over in the corner is the classic K6 telephone box. This is a very early one, 1937, is stamped on the back of it. And if we go and have a close look, this has got the full Jubilee kit inside. There you go, the classic, well, apart from the Moss Killer, the classic Jubilee fit out with the frames, directory frame on the left, advertising frame on the right, dialing instructions, mirror, and of course the famous push button A coin box with the Bakelite phone. When we come across here, we've got one of several poles, in fact you can see 2 in this shot, carrying some of our insulator collection. The red one at the back there is a fire bell. That's an LMS fire bell insulator. Carried the wires for the fire bells. Again, enamel signs everywhere. Another one of the AA signs there for Denton in Bedfordshire. A more modern post office name board. And here, these are quite interesting. This is a Pedestal Box. These were introduced in the late 1980s and early 1990s in 2 sizes. This is the narrow one. They are actually cast iron, and rather heavy, and the elliptical top I think is quite attractive for a post box. If we move over here, we have a fabulous telephone pole here, which is carrying most of the curved pole furniture signs. You can see a couple of Postal Telecom or a Southstadt Iran Irish ones on there, as well as the UK ones. And if we pull out, just to the right here is one of two Edward VIII pillar boxes that we have here. There's a popular fallacy that there were no Edward VIII boxes. There were in fact about 120 of this B-size one made, and a small number, around 12 to 15, of a slightly larger size, and we're very lucky to have one of those at the front of the house. Swinging around the other way, we come to the original shed. This is shed 1, and again it was quite small, 56 square feet, and it didn't take very long for that to get completely full of post office equipment, telephone signs, all sorts of different things. This rather lovely one here actually swings out on the pole, hence it's got a restraining chain for it. And down here we've got a mixture of English and French, a telegraph for the telegraph office, but also Horton Heath and Carlton post offices. And in the window we've got a notice from Wokingham, which would display the office opening times. If the post box was in the window, then it wouldn't carry a collection plate. It would tell you to look at this notice instead. But down the front here we have actually got some interesting collection plates. That's Logan's Well, which is in Scotland, south of Paisley. Westview Road, which came from somewhere near Hartlepool, as did Traveller's Rest, which is a really nice one. And then quite an unusual one down here, time plate removed for correction. So if the times had to be changed, this plate would be inserted while they were adjusting or making a new enamel plate. Now, I said in the first video that I've done absolutely nothing to the collection today, so it is a bit of a mess, but it'll give you an impression of what's going on here. The E2R 1971 plate up there, that's from a telephone exchange and would have been set above the door normally. And a couple more signs down here. But if we just open the door of shed 1, you can see here a nice selection of the enamel plates from James Ludlow boxes, starting with Victoria at the top. There's a replica of the Edward VIII one at Bordsea, which is unique. Next to that is a replica of the Scottish Crown Ludlow plate, which is also very, very rare. And then below those, two Edward VII plates. The one on the left with the block cipher is what would be known as a carpenter's box plate, whereas the one on the right is actually off a Ludlow. Carpenter's boxes basically could have been made by anybody, and the plates were issued for them. It seems that they got block ciphers for some reason, whereas the ones that were actually fitted by James Ludlow and Son tended to have the more florid cipher that you can see on the right there. And then we've got the front of a George V long door there. At the moment, this shed has got 3 bikes and a whole load of plastic construction kits in it, while I try and sort them out. But it's also got some rather wonderful stuff on the ceiling and at the back there, including the collection of miniature post boxes and the